Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you another kit that I started building during the SU7 project was ongoing. I really needed something to rest from that one, so I tackled this Flyhawk M1A2 SEP Abrams. I chose this one because a couple years ago I built a Flyhawk Panzer 1F that I can say was the best AFV model I built so far. So I thought this Abrams could be a great getaway kit to refresh my mind. The injection quality is excellent, the fitting is great, the texture are also amazing for this scale, and comparing to actual Abrams photos, the kit is very credible, I must say. So building it was a charm. Only a few things that I had to improve, like the handles that I substitute the injected ones by other made from copper wires and the plastic mud guards for ones made from copper sheet. I also scraped the plastic in a few spots to make them look thinner. The kit provides some PE parts like engine grills and storage compartments, which enhance a lot the model. All PE and metal parts were glued into place with my favorite black super glue, later cleaned with the bonder. There are many clever solutions during assembly, like the reinforcements inside the lower hull and the commander's cupola that has tons of details. But the tracks are arguably the most interesting solution. They came in two halves that you only have to stick them together and later assemble the road wheels. Of course this works fine as the track shapes helps as it has these rubber pads and are not so detailed as other metal tracks. Here are some pictures of the assembled model before painting. Easy assembly, I must say. Now throwing some painting on it, starting with the usual black primer. The painting process started quite along the SU7, so I was experimenting different approaches also on this Abrams. I also tried the pre-shading here too. First layer was applying the Tamiya XF55 deck 10, focusing the highlights on the top surfaces. I was trying the pre-shading with complementary colors at that time. This is a single color scheme, and I thought it would have a more prominent effect than the multicolor schemes that I found on the SU7. But let's see. The complementary color for the sand is a reddish violet. I tried to go with more or less cover in different panels. I didn't have a ready-to-use color, so I had to mix one, and I found it quite difficult and demanding in my opinion. The first layer, a darker one, was a mix of XF78 wooden deck 10, XF57 buff, and just a few drops of XF59 desert yellow. The highlights came later adding XF55 deck 10 to this mix. At first I was satisfied and gave a gloss varnish coat, but later I thought it was a bit too dark and I also didn't like the overall shade and look. So I removed the desert yellow from the mix and added more deck 10 to it, yet applying thin coats, and I think it got much better. Then another coat of gloss varnish and starting to apply the decals. There are only a few of them and they are very good. The clear film is thin and it sits nicely over textures, of course using some softener along. The tracks were painted with an overall light gray, and later I painted each rubber pad with a brush and Vallejo black rubber. The weathering was made using 3 sand shades of oil paints. I applied them randomly, and later cleaned the excess on the rubber pads. Looking some photos of the Abrams on the desert, I could see that the dirt and dust accumulated between the pads, and I think this way using oils resulted in a pretty good effect. Dirt texture was added with a mix of marble powder and Vallejo ochre, starting on the lower hole, but while making it, I realized that I forgot the chipping. So let's scratch the model using Vallejo deck tin. The effect is very subtle, as there are not much contrast between colors. On the bigger scratches I added dark grayish brown, but only in a few and sparse spots, because I didn't find actual photos of heavy chipping on these tanks. So back to the dirt. I painted it with flat earth and dark brown, moving to lighter shades like buff and deck tan. Before proceeding with the weather, I assembled the wheels and the tracks, so I could also fix the side skirts and better blend the dust effect on the model. With them in place, I added more texture by speckling the marble powder and deck tan mix, toning down some places with a moisture brush. The same mix was used in places where dust could accumulate. To reduce the resultant contrast of the dirt color and the camouflage color, I airbrushed again buff and deck tan, and the same colors were also used for dust accumulations. The wash with a dark yellow was the following step. I tried to avoid spreading the wash over the model, to don't turn it too dark in the end. So cleaning the excess with moisture brush with spirits was a must step. After dried, some sandy oil colors were added around the model, spreading the color with a dry brush with downstrokes on vertical surface and stippling movements on horizontal ones. Later I made the same movements, but this time with a clean and moisture brush, removing the oils and giving that rain marks appearance. The antennas were made with stretched sprue. I added a small amount of black super glue on the tips to create volume, and then painted with dark gray. Then I assembled the cupola and the machine gun's mount, and the kit was pretty much done. And here is the final review. The kit was basically relaxing to build and paint. I must say that I didn't dive too deep in research for this one, which might contributed for this relaxation feeling. Again, the appreciating was basically a waste of time and resource, as the amount of post effects overwhelmed the previous ones. So far, I'm going to call this one done. I mean, I probably one day will add some storage, canvas or anything else on the back of the turret. But right now, I'm not quite sure what to add, and if I'm going to make only a display base, a vignette or a diorama. Sometime in the future I will decide, but currently I'm not inspired. Anyway, this kit was super fun to build, and I liked a lot the final result. But what do you think? So leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next time. Cheers!